What's up, everyone? I've been playing a ton of Soulframe Preludes 12 lately, which is basically the game's alpha period. One of the many things I've grinded for so far is getting all of the magic weapons to max rank, which is currently level 30. I just wanted to put out a video kind of going over tips I've learned leveling up these weapons. This is going to be much more catered towards players that haven't started leveling these weapons up yet, or maybe somewhere along the process. I will come out with a video later going over high-end builds with these weapons with maxed out runes and totems, what packs I would use them with, what joineries, skill points, all that good stuff. But for now, we're going to focus on how to unlock these weapons, which ones are good, which ones are bad, what virtues you should be investing in, and other tips for leveling up. So first, just a broad overview on the state of magic weapons right now in Soulframe. There are currently 5 weapons, 3 of which are primaries and 2 that are sidearms. Magic weapons are attuned with spirit, which means that the more you invest your character in the spirit of virtue, the more your damage increases. However, there is a virtue damage scaling level cap for each weapon, which we'll go over for each one individually, which marks the point where after which you will not receive more additional damage for investing in spirit. There are also 2 damage types for magic weapons, Arcanic and Voltaic, but in the current state of the game, this is more of just a visual difference. I'm sure eventually as this game progresses in development, there will be more of a difference between the 2 damage types in terms of what enemies they are more effective against, but for right now, there is very little noticeable difference, if any at all. Also, all of primary weapons share the same animation style in terms of primary attacks and heavy attacks, and the 2 sidearms also share the same animation style, just different than the primary one. So there is no significant difference between the weapons other than the damage, stagger, and smite chance stats. As you level up each weapon, you'll receive stat increases in damage, stagger, and smite chance, as well as points to allocate in magic combat arts. Speaking of combat arts, this is my current filled out skill tree. I haven't done any in-depth testing of this, and I believe they'll be reworking combat arts soon, so I wouldn't invest too much time worrying about this. You're going to get 5 points per weapon, which will get you to 25 total points if you max level every magic weapon, which as you can see fills out nearly the entire tree. Stats I would focus on primarily are definitely smite chance increases because smite is super powerful, and anything that boosts your heavy attack because you'll be using that a lot. So the bottom of this skill tree is really good for that. It's going to increase the amount of stagger your heavy attack does, make it charge faster, and pass through multiple enemies. So we'll start with, in my opinion, the worst primary weapon, which is the Gwellin. I'm also totally going to butcher these weapon names, so yeah, forgive me in advance about that. If you know how these are actually pronounced, make sure to let me know in the comments. Unlocking this weapon is pretty simple. If you choose the Oselda pack at the beginning of the game, you'll automatically start with this weapon. It's literally just the beginner weapon for that pack. If you choose Tetherin or Siren, once you unlock your faction shop, which will be Kith of Kings and Silent Rose respectively, you just need to get your faction to level 1 by doing faction tales, and then the weapon fragment will cost 1500 rep after that. You only need 1 fragment, and then you can craft this weapon with 2 Volcanae and the Nightfold as long as you have the required gold and other materials. The materials might change with the new updates, so won't go over them in this video, but it's pretty easy to acquire any material in the game right now by just casually playing. So these are my weapon stats at level 30 with no totems, runes, or combat art points allocated. I should note that you can increase all of the 3 main stats, damage, stagger, and smite chance by enchanting your weapon with runes and totems and investing in the combat art tree, but for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to compare the weapons with no investment in those areas. You can see you only get up to 92 attack damage with 184 charge attack, 19 stagger, and a 6% smite chance. You'll see in a second that in the other primary weapons all have better damage and stagger at max rank, although smite chance will stay the same. Also, the virtue cap for the Gwellin is 32, which means you'll have to invest 32 points in spirit to get the most out of this staff, which is a pretty high amount. A very quick note on virtues, which could easily take a whole other video to cover, is that right now in P12, Courage just dominates the Spirit and Grace virtues in terms of usefulness because it increases the damage of your packed abilities. So for magic weapons, which all scale with Spirit, we definitely want weapons with the lower virtue caps so that we can stop investing points into Spirit and start investing them into Courage to boost our skill damage. There is a joinery system where you can actually change the virtue that your weapon scales with, but you have to be weapon level 30 to utilize that fully. So my best advice to players that are already max level for any magic weapon would be to use a joinery that attunes your weapon with courage right away. You'll have to level that weapon up again from level 1, but right now those are really the only joineries that I find to be impactful. All of the other joineries that just slightly increase stats on your weapon I found to be pretty non-impactful and not really worth the time to engage in right now. The system will probably get reworked in the future, but for now I would suggest waiting until you get to level 30 and then using a blessed joinery to change your attunement to courage. Anyways, next primary we'll take a look at is the Asteroot. Getting this one is going to take a solid chunk of time. First, you're going to have to progress your story until you get the Waste Bear Fable. This fable unlocks after completing the Brewer of Hues Fable. Right now, I would say how to and where to unlock fables is one of the larger new player experience quality of life changes that need to happen in this game because it can be super confusing how to exactly progress your story to this point. I will put out a guide at some point in the near future, but for now, Google is unfortunately probably your best bet here if you're lost at this step. During the Waste Bear Fable, you're going to fight this dude called the Wazard of Wastes. After completing the fable, a knockoff version of him will spawn as a mini boss at Side A's Stake and will respawn every 30 minutes. You can obtain fragments for the S route by defeating either of the two versions of this boss, and then once you have two fragments, you can craft the weapon with two Volcanae. The virtue cap for the S route is currently 27, which means we don't have to invest as much spirit into the weapon as the Glellin. At level 30, it maxes out at 108 attack damage with 216 charge attack and 19 stagger with a 6% chance at smite. So basically same stagger and smite chance as the Glellin, but has a higher damage, making it a solid upgrade, just taking more time to actually acquire. It does also have this level requirement of 10 spirit, which shouldn't be too much of an issue, but something to note as well. The Alder is the final primary magic weapon in the game right now and is almost identical in terms of stats compared to the S-Root. The only way to currently obtain the Alder is by purchasing the Wild of Zelda or Paragon Founders Pack, like with real money, which could change in the future, but for right now, you will need to buy one of those packs to obtain this weapon. Like I said, it's very similar to the S-Root, so you aren't missing out on much if you choose to wait for another potential unlock path. So you can see here we have the exact same 108 attack, 216 charge attack, and 6% smite chance, which are all the same as the S-Root stats. The Alder does have 23 stagger, which is a whopping 4 higher than that of the S-Root, so a little bit of a difference there. It also has the same virtue cap as the S-Root at 27. Also, there is a slight difference in the projectile in the Alder versus the Estrute. You can see here that the Alder has more of a circular projectile that covers more area on charge attacks and the third primary attack, while the Estrute has much more of a straight and direct line. So you could say it's a little easier to hit shots and cover more area with the Alder, but I personally don't find there to be much of a difference. At the end of the day, these weapons are very, very similar, and I wouldn't stress too much if you don't have the Alder unlocked. On to the first of two magic sidearms is my personal favorite, even though it is technically statistically worse than the other option, but it's the Odiak. What makes the Odiak unique in terms of magic weapons is that it does voltaic damage, which is this electricity type animation, which just looks super cool. The easiest way to get Odiak fragments is from old enemies in game, or if you're in the Alka's Children faction, you can choose the fragment for free when you reach faction level 1, or you can buy it for 1500 rep also at level 1 if you choose a different level up reward. The virtue cap for the Odiak is 22, so a bit less than all of the primary weapons, which is nice, and it gets up to 92 attack damage, 184 charge attack, 19 stagger, and 6% smite chance. If those numbers sound familiar, it's because they're the exact same stats as the Glellin primary weapon. The big boost to the Odiak, which makes it the winner here, is the 22 virtue cap versus 32 for the Glellin, meaning we can put 10 extra points into courage when just using the Odiak. But yeah, I find the animation and visual style of the Odiak make it one of the cooler weapons in the game right now. The other sidearm is the Estho. The Estho has arcanic damage type, so not as cool looking as the Odiak in my opinion, but it does have slightly better stats. Like the Alder primary weapon, the only way to currently acquire this weapon is via the Wild, Oselda, or Paragon Founders packs. The Esso has the exact same virtue cap as the Odiac at 22, but has slightly better stats with 94 attack, 188 charge attack, 23 stagger, and 6% smite chance. That is plus 4 in attack, charge attack, and stagger compared to the Odiac. So, once again, just very slightly better, and which weapon you prefer is totally going to come down to personal preference. So that's pretty much everything I have on the current state of magic weapons in Soulframe right now. If I missed something or got something wrong, go ahead and let me know in the comments. The game is obviously in an alpha state right now, constantly updating. So a lot of the numbers you'll find online right now are a little outdated due to that. I got all of the footage and numbers from testing this weekend, so it is as up to date as I could possibly do, but obviously I might have missed something. Other than that, I'm going to try to start getting more guides out there on Soulframe, hoping to get a video out weekly, and I'll probably just go through the rest of the weapon classes next. I'll also be doing a deeper dive into late game magic builds at some point that can be used to tackle some of the harder content in the game, as well as some guides on factions, pacts, resource grinding areas. I'm also going to be streaming a lot of my Soulframe grind on Twitch, so you can find the link to that in my channel or in the description below. If you've made it to this part of the video, I really do appreciate it, and I hope you found it to be useful. Other than that, I will talk to you all later. Peace.